podcast. Dave and Rob.
So then we go with the Mauser hair joke, where Proctor helps him out with his hair, and he turns out that he has hairy palms, which that's a gig. And he gets a wig, which is actually a nice wig. I liked it. Kind of going with the blonde look more. Pretty far away from what his hair used to look like, because
that's where the budget went for the movie.
I thought it was a pretty good wig, as long as you didn't know what his hair looked like before that. It wasn't going to fool anybody, though. So yeah, you not only got the hairy palm joke about, well, what he could have been doing to get those hairy palms, but of course, he freaks out about losing his hair. The next scene, interesting character. For some reason, Lassard decides he wants to pick a fight, and this is the scene you were referencing.
Yes, yeah. All right, punks.
Yeah.
Roll up my sleeves.
Street justice.
I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do.
And again, remember, at no point prior did we have any indication that Lassard is prone to do things like this. He seemed to be a pretty by-the-books, laid-back kind of guy, and now all of a sudden he, for some reason, sees a gang member and decides he wants to get into a fight. And as the gang member backs into the alley, he follows him into the alley, where he is quickly ambushed by, about 8 of the gang members or so.
Extras for the day.
Sure, whatever extras happen to be around. And things look grim.
He looked like Johnny Five did in Short Circuit 2 after he met those gang dudes and they all spray painted him and gave him that like mohawk on the jacket.
Yeah, so they're talking again in the ready room, and Lassard comes in. He's all sprayed and marked up, and he insists, that's it, we're going on the offensive. And then we get a nice moment. There's actually some continuity in the story. The cast goes out and they start in their own particular idioms fighting crime with powers of their shticks, I wrote down.
Oh, like
all of a sudden Jones discovers that he has inner Bruce Lee, because he can appear to do that Saturday afternoon Chopsaki movie bad dubbing shtick, which I'll give him credit for, is actually pretty funny. That's a comedy routine that works well for him. Apparently that gives him good martial arts powers too, because he is able to fight off a couple gang members at a time and beats them until they're unconscious, which is a common way of arresting people. Sweet Chuck has a fun moment. He's the poor guy's got his arm in a cast now, but he leads the gang to the Blue Oyster Bar. Of course, the Blue Oyster Bar makes a return as the running joke of the movie.
It does stop somewhere though. It does.
Yeah, probably when they leave.
I think 4.
Yeah,
I think 4 is the last time they do it.
There's probably a callback somewhere though. But anyhow, so that starts a fight, because the gang fights with the occupants, who are all still the leather jacketed biker types who frequent the Blue Oyster.
Blue Oyster, not Blue Oyster.
No,
I can't even say that.
Blue Oyster Bar.
Blue Oyster.
Yes, I think it's Mahoney and Stuhlman. They show up. Mahoney gets thrown out of the place. They call for backup. Hightower walks in, starts throwing people out. and then they just call for a wagon to just pile them all up in, because Hightower does take care of things like that. So yeah, then when it's all over with, there are the regulars behind the bar, and they're all smiling at Hightower, who seems distinctly uncomfortable with that kind of attention. Funny, good setup, good payoff. No, really. Again, it's what serves as comedy in this movie. But yes, turns out that all the charges for all of the good things that they did get dropped because improper arrest procedure and police brutality.
Something tells me Mauser had something to do with that.
Well, Mauser was grinning from ear to ear through the whole thing, so it seemed like he won, because while they had the brief pop where they all felt good about things, then all of a sudden almost everybody's let go, and that doesn't work out very well. Which, of course, means if Mauser's gloating, there has to be something that happens, which is why Mahoney, out of the blue, asked Lassard for permission for a body cavity search and got a blank document signed by him. Guess who gets that?
Ooh, Mauser?
Yeah, very good. They're back in the shower. Mauser takes a lot of showers in this one. And
maybe he doesn't have a house. There's always that one guy when you have a place that has showers. There's always that one guy that will shower.
Perhaps so, but you have no point in paying the water bill if you can avoid it.
No.
And a nurse, a very stout nurse in the Germanic tradition comes down and wants to know where the BCS is. So, yeah, and of course, Mahoney gets that smile on his face like he always does when he does one of these physical jokes. Points out Mauser, and they grab Mauser, and for those of you who've never had a body cavity search, they're not pleasant. I'm not speaking from experience here, but Mauser did not enjoy it. Again, quick hitting joke. They actually somewhat set it up by Lessard just, while he's in a good mood, signing off on the body cavity search. Mahoney didn't even seem like he had anything intentional for it until the opportunity presented itself with Mauser gloating just a little bit too much. Just because that was funny. And apparently you can give your superior a body cavity search for that. That's apparently a thing you can do.
Oh, could you imagine if the place of retail that you and I have worked at, if we had that power? Oh,
some things should not be invoked. Considering some of the people who work at those places may listen to this, I'm not going to go any further into that. But yes, that's
Hollywood Video. Those don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I generally liked most of those people though. So then comes the date between
Kirkland and Tackleberry.
Kirkland looks very, very nice. Very nice dress.
Better be. She's that maid from Clue.
Yes. Yeah, she looked great. Tackleberry, hideous suit, but the checkers and everything, and the sports jacket and everything. But this was the thing for that whole part. It was kind of sweet. Tackleberry is, wide-eyed and innocent. Neither of them seemed to know what they were doing. And then they have a dating montage. Nothing funny is going on. They seem like they're having an okay time. Nothing funny. Then in the end, they have, nope, Tackleberry, why don't you stay? Okay? Start taking off clothes. The only thing...
Taking off guns.
They take off the guns.
Gun here.
Yes, there's a huge pile of guns. Guns in their socks, guns in their waist belts. Yeah. By the time it's done, there's a pile of guns. So, Peter Lessard calls his big brother Eric to come and help him out. So, they meet over hibachi, which is always funny.
Oh,
it wasn't all that funny.
What happened in that scene, I've always had a fear about going to those places. In fact, your table is almost represents one of those hibachi tables.
Yes.
You got your thing right here, and then right here's the grill part. And when I was a little kid, I was always you're talking about a little kid me who would turn on a burner and touch it on purpose. So of course I would have this weird fear about touching this burner thing like that. I thought it was kind of funny how Eric Lessard is listening to his brother talk, and he just puts his hand on his hand, like a older brother would, except he puts it on the burner of the grill.
That's and honestly, again, that was probably one of the funnier moments because you had a character in his character doing something that led to a funny moment. Because we know that Eric Lessard is a nice guy and would never really want to hurt his brother, but because he's just not with it, that happened. Oh, and of course, cooking the goldfish because they put his goldfish on the hibachi too.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah. I wonder how many fish he's gone through.
Oh goodness, many, many, many wonderful goldfish.
It's probably the secretary's job to switch out the fish when they realize it's dead.
I think the secretary has a drawer full of goldfish. That's my theory. So anyhow, Lessard's brilliant plan is to come up with something to try to inspire the people to put their faith back in the 18th precinct, and that's to have a street fair. Which brings us up to the subclimax of this movie. Thank God. So they have a fair, and all of the police officers of all of the people in this precinct, we only really see the cast of the movie. So we see them all doing their different things to help out the fair, running events. Then the gang shows up to the fair, all
with an awesome music cue too, that saxophone thing. And
fair enough. That was decent. And of course they come in and they pretty much trash it.
What's going on? I should just stop doing that. Nobody can talk like Bobcat Goldthwait like Bobcat Goldthwait.
Maybe they shouldn't want to. I'm just saying. But yeah, so they trashed the fair. Long story short, even though there's lots of police officers supposedly at this fair, none of them do anything to the gang. The gang gets away with trashing the fair, and Lassard quits. Captain Mauser ends up suspending Stuhlman and Mahoney, and then Lassard, Stuhlman, and Mahoney are at the bar feeling sorry for themselves. Stuhlman suggests infiltrating the gang by sending in Mahoney with a god-awful fake mustache.
Hey, man, what are you talking about, man? It's a real mustache, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
80s gang clothes, and his method of being street is being spastic as Jughead.
Yeah, man, I'm Jughead. What are we talking about, Jughead? I'm Jughead. I think I work with people like the undercover Mahoney.
Maybe so, but it was painful. So apparently the gang's name are the Scullions, and Mahoney chats them up. Eventually, Jones and his partner. We actually get a little payoff. This part actually impressed me slightly. Because we know that Jones' partner is a jerk who doesn't like rookies. Mahoney ends up kind of to show how tough Mahoney is. Mahoney eventually basically subdues Jones and his partner and has Jones kick his partner in the butt repeatedly to show how tough he is. Apparently that does the trick. The gang accepts him. Then we cut away from that because we have to get back to Tackleberry and Kirkland, where we are introduced to Kirkland's family. This becomes another running joke into the next movie because we meet her brother and her father, who beat each other up because funny.
And the mother just laughs at it. Oh, you two.
Oh, you two. You watch them beat each other up and have a great time punching each other, and that's funny. Tackleberry is actually horrified by this, so you go Tack.
Which, is kind of fascinating considering, of all things, Tackleberry's like, this big old kind of guy, and then he's like, oh.
See, to me, this is a microcosm of why this movie really fails. Tackleberry was built as kind of a real person. There are people who are like Tackleberry who are really, really enthusiastic about guns. Many of them just talk. Tackleberry does the walk, but he's within the bounds of believability. Mm-hmm. This family is not. From the
shtick family. This is what this is.
It's a comedy shtick family, and Tackleberry is the kind of real person, even though he's to kind of an extreme personality. But he gets thrown into this, and the look is almost, oh my god, my career is going south. Well, within the character. So yeah, their whole running joke is the dad and the brother beat each other up. You don't see Kirkland beat either of them up. It's just between the two of them. But you will continue to see this. And so then you cut away again after a short little rousing bit of that, Tackleberry being the family. Then you see Mahoney getting mic'd up with a toy, a buggy gimmicked kid's microphone.
I don't think this thing would work at all for what they needed it to do.
It's a comedy prop. Stuhlman sets it up, and they send him in. For some reason, they need this microphone for something.
It's probably to pick up, like this one right here, Be like, if I were undercover, I'd have this right on my chest. Hey, guys, what are you doing? We're gonna stop this ring here. Yeah.
So Lassard, Lou, and Stuhlman tail Mahoney to the gang headquarters in an abandoned zoo. Mahoney, the whole time in his spastic mode, keeps trying to drop audio hints about where they're going. The mic malfunctions. Just as Mahoney is meeting with Zed.
You're a cop.
I thought you were gonna stop doing that.
And I used to do that all the time as a kid because when I was a kid, he was my favorite character.
Fair enough.
Maybe I should watch the cartoon and see how they do Zed's voice in the cartoon, and maybe I could do that one better.
There you go. Or you could hit yourself over the head with a 2x4 a few times. It all makes sense.
I could just pretend that Bill Paxton had the role like he was offered and instead said yes to that instead of Aliens.
There you go. So Mahoney is caught. The rest of the gang is called in to help bail out Mahoney. Everybody listens to him. Proctor insists that they don't because he's not with him anymore, and Hooks gets to deck him.
Holy crap, Hooks is in this movie?
Hooks is on the switchboard. That was her whole role.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, and she decks Proctor.
I'm just going to do my little voice. I'm going to tell the police they got to go to this area.
She's got to do two
that
things.
Area.
Yes. And then she goes off along with all the rest of them. Mauser and Lassard end up meeting outside of the zoo. And Mauser insists on going where Lassard was going to go, through an open vent on the top of the zoo. Yeah, that of course doesn't end well at all. I wrote down an extremely lame fight between Mahoney and Zed. They're tied at the wrist and they have guessing knives. It's really just no. Okay, so it's an extremely lame fight. Jones comes in and rehashes a joke he did before with suppressing gunfire sounds, and he basically wins the entire thing. There's really no great fight or resolution because there's only those folks. Hightower's big thing is he shakes a rope bridge and causes some gang members to fall into a moat so that they can be captured, I guess. He doesn't do anything particularly interesting. Of course, Tackleberry again. There's an action scene. He's not there, so nobody gets shot. So who knew? Of course,
it'd
Mauser.
Be overkill to bring Tackleberry in to do all this gun stuff. I mean, we already had our big gun scene, and then you had your other gun scene in the bedroom. So,
and then you had Mauser try to come in from the top, and he falls and gets hung from a rope. Haha, hilarious. Left just kind of dangling there in front of the gang. So the gang takes off. Proctor! And Zed pulls a gun. He actually, oh my gosh, has a gun, and he points it at Mahoney and takes him hostage. Amazing. The gang leader is actually somewhat acting like a gang leader. Ugh. So he tries to take him out of the zoo, but who do they run into but Peter Lassard, who pulls out his own gun. He has a gun. Surprises all around. And he actually does a pretty good stare-down routine with Zed. Okay, bear in mind, the movie doesn't give a lot of good comedy lines or chops in here for anybody. The guy who plays Peter Lassard is an accomplished actor, and he did as much as he could with this role. I'll give him the credit for that. That standoff was the finest point in the movie as far as I'm concerned. Good delivery, even if it had Bobcat Goldthwait in it. Still, he had good delivery. Mahoney looked good and tight. It was solidly done. They make him surrender, and then of course Lassard admits that he didn't have any bullets in his gun, and he hadn't carried live ammo since '78 or something like that. It was actually a nice delivery. The only part of the movie that I actually thought was solid. His role was pretty well done and decent. Does he ever show up again in any of the other Police Academy?
Does not.
There you go. Just an example of everything wrong with this. Of course, this is just in time for Hooks to deliver her line. They'll move their bags again.
Oh, as he fell down the stairs.
Yeah,
that didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. And then she steps on his hand. That hurt.
Kirkland and Tackleberry get married. They drive off in a monster truck because, of course, they do.
Yeah, monster truck.
And that was it. That is the end of Police Academy 2, their first assignment. My following notes, payoff weak, not very funny. No great payoffs, few and weaker jokes. Lassard presumably gets his job back. We assume there's nothing on that they do. Nor do we find out what happens to Mauser until the next movie. But there's the last thing you see is Mauser still dangling from the cave entrance in the zoo.
Well, you'd have to assume they would pick him up.
You assume they finally pick him up. Probably actually Proctor drops him on his head because.
Did you ever see the TV version of this movie?
Yeah, probably.
There is an extended version, and there's only one scene that I remember that is different than what I have.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, instead of them driving off in just the monster truck, it cuts to Eric Lassard welcoming his new recruits into the police academy, and they're all Zed and his gang.
I can assume they kill that because the third movie happens.
Possibly, but in a movie, how long is Police Academy 2? 87 minutes, and back in those days, if a movie ran under a certain amount of time, they had to extend it by adding in scenes that they cut out, and you'd usually get with the filmmakers to say, okay, what do you want to put back in, or what can we put back in, and they would do that.
All I know is there's 87 minutes of my life I'm not getting back.
No, you said an hour and a half. I bet you didn't watch all the credits. So, Rob,
yeah, because just to see if there was some ending sting at the end, that would have been maybe worthwhile.
The Police Academy Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. So anyhow, we have to rate the sucker. We have to give it kind of a wrap up. So Dave, you do the 4-star system. I do the 10-point system.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I will drop it from my Facebook review that I recently discovered. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What did you rate it for then? I can't remember.
I can't believe 3.
3?
3.
You're drunk.
I was
drunk.
I was having some alcohol back in those days. Like, I'm gonna review movies. That's what I did. I think I could give it 2. It's not as good as the original. I do like some of the Zed and Sweet Chuck stuff. Some of it. Characters, they turned into caricatures, but there were certain aspects of things that they were doing in the movie that I still, it was okay. I mean, there's nothing great. Mahoney, other than the stuff in the beginning, he was still Mahoney. The stuff in the beginning that we kind of mentioned was just kind of off the wall. It just didn't seem right for the character that he kind of was developing into, but you know what? He was still new, so maybe he was working on it. I like Peter Lassard. I like the brother. He's a very strong presence in the movie, probably because he's overshadowing all the other actors.
A lot of it, yeah.
The Mauser and Proctor stuff. Now, I did like Mauser, and I'm kind of glad that Harris wasn't in part 2 or 3, because, well, Harris could go on and do better things, and when he comes back, it's kind of like, oh, Harris is back. This will be nice. But they'll too turn him into a caricature as well. These were films that I watched as a kid numerous times, and yeah, part 2 I foolishly gave it 3, but it's just okay. It's nothing spectacular. I can laugh at a few of the things, and there's other things I'm like, I don't like that. Why'd they do that? And yeah. Just 2. That's it.
Well, I was tempted to give it a 2 as well, but my scale's a little different.
That'd be mostly.
I'm not going to give it a 2, however. 2 is for a movie that completely and utterly fails. This movie does not completely and utterly fail. I will give it a 3, and the reasoning for that is as follows. And now we get to the more detailed part of my notes. First of all, potentiality. You had good character development with a number of these characters already in the first movie. You didn't need to reintroduce them. You didn't need to do a great deal. You just need to let the characters be the characters and tell a story, putting them in a scenario, letting it cook. So, how did they do it? They took the characters, but instead of keeping the characters, fresh and acting together, they split them up so that at almost no time do these characters actually interact with each other. And when they do, it's usually something bad that's going on. So you have no real inter-character relationships anymore. That's all gone. Number 2, the people that you brought in weren't funny. They were caricatures. They weren't real people. Stuhlman was a caricature of a slob, a schlub. Nice guy, but very little about his character other than slob. Kirkland, an extreme character, had nothing other than she was pretty and she was a female Tackleberry. But even Tackleberry had a lot more depth than that. You could just go down the line. The only characters that came out of this that I felt anything for of a positive nature, Sweet Chuck, despite the fact that he only got named by Mauser in the damage report, had a nice character. He's a caricature too. He's the ultimate victim, really, a guy who can never really fight back and tries, but. No, he comes out as a sympathetic character. Fine. It's kind of a running joke. He keeps getting beat down and everything. Every time you see him, he's more roughed up. But okay, he was sympathetic. That was fine. And like you said, Peter Lassard. Perhaps I have a soft spot for when he played Johnny Fever in WKRP in Cincinnati. I loved that character role. And he kind of brings a lot of the same character to this role. So it's comfortable. But you can tell he's more invested in this movie than almost anybody else in this movie. he does have nice character development. He actually does have good delivery, and with the weird thing about him getting into that fight and getting abducted, which just seems to happen to push the storyline. That's just bad writing. He played a character that I could respect and enjoy watching on the screen. Mauser made you wish that you had Harris again. Did not respect him as a foil. And because, like I said, Zed was so rubber knife, just non-threat. Silly. Just even for a comedy, it was just
I don't think that kind of character in the real world would be leading a gang or
No, there was no reason for him to. He had what charisma, what great plans did he have? We're gonna take over a zoo. I'm gonna put a car in and watch TV like it's a drive-in theater. Just no, just.
Did you? I always want to do that. We should make this into a car right here and to watch these movies in a drive-in theater style.
Yeah, sure. We'll get right on that.
Yeah,
but yeah, there was no. At least with the police academy, you had the threat of being kicked out of the academy, which would have ended their get together at various points. You wanted to keep them in the academy and doing these things together. There wasn't really a whole lot of a threat here. The only threat really was to Peter Lassard, who was somewhat sympathetic, but the gang, what were they doing other than the one time you actually saw them doing anything real was when they were robbing the grocery store. That was about it. They were a non-threat, didn't really do anything for giving the characters anything to play off of or anything to struggle for or strive for. It just so bad.
I lose my suspension of disbelief with the store scene because having working in stores for many years, the shelves are never that full and not everything is pulled forward like that. Every movie, every show that I ever watch, and there's a store, unrealistically, everything has been pulled forward. Everything. It's like nobody shopped there, or the customers in movie world must buy the product and pull it forward. It's just one of those things. Ever since I worked in retail, I can't overlook it.
That's fair. The one joke that worked, I thought, that really worked was the epoxy in the shampoo. It was a comedy setup. You have villain deserves something, hero puts plan into action, payoff is that the villain is humiliated. That's a good comedy routine. It's a staple. We saw that numerous times in the first one. Only one real good time in this movie. It happened and then it passed. The moment was relatively brief and it didn't continue on to any great degree. There just wasn't a great deal of setting anything up. Everything was a quick hit. Boom, it's there in the moment, it's funny, which did not keep any energy going. There were numerous times when I was looking at the clock wishing this movie was over with. And ultimately, where it all just kind of fell into place, the finale, everybody gets together because of course they do. And basically it was all over when Jones came in and did his machine gun sound shtick, which he's done before, wasn't new, and all the gang runs away, and that's basically it. That's the end of it. There's no great point. The only last point is Zed getting captured. That's really it. It's not. I'm astounded by just how sub-mediocre this thing was.
I've never really looked up behind the scenes of this movie before until now, actually.
Okay.
Written by Barry, I'm going to probably pronounce his name wrong, but I'm going to say like Bluestein or Bluestein.
Let me see. Pronouncing things is my specialty, if I can read it. Blaustein.
Mm-hmm. So it's written by Barry Blaustein and David Sheffield.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious, their filmography, both of them are writing partners, of course, because they pretty much wrote a couple of these films. Eddie Murphy movies, actually. Let's see, they did
Pluto Nash?
Not Pluto Nash.
Wow.
Coming to America.
I like that movie.
Boomerang. The Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
And Nutty Professor 2. That's what those are the movies that stick out for me for these guys. The director, Jerry Paris, has a very long resume, mostly with television. and he directed some high-profile television shows, or at least what would be high-profile back in the day, obviously.
What other movies did he do, though?
Not a whole lot of movies.
No.
Not a whole lot of movies.
Kind of telling here.
He was a director on the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Okay.
He did 200 plus episodes of Happy Days.
Okay. See, that's kind of the thing of my point. This movie ran like it was handled by people who didn't understand movie comedies. The first one was a lot better crafted because they understand the importance of, in the time frame you have so much humor and so much character development that you have to pack into these movies. You can spend it by doing very little character development and running gags and sight gags if you want. That works for a lot of comedies these days. But back then, in the first movie, you had good character development so that the comedy related to the characters better. You didn't need Jones to suddenly discover his inner Bruce Lee, despite the fact that he had never had any kind of martial arts presence before this, to make that joke funny. That wasn't something that you had to do. They suddenly had to shoehorn this element in to make that work for this movie. Again, you didn't. It just gets so angry.
Yeah, Jerry Paris did mostly television. The only movie that stuck out that he did was, other than Police Academy 2, is he directed Police Academy 3. And some of these other movies on his list, they're just, TV movies or something that's not reminiscent with anybody.
Honestly, I can believe that he did 3, because in 3 you see some continuity. You actually see, I think he eased into the role a bit better of a director, and he was clearly more comfortable with these characters. So yeah, I can see that to a point.
Yeah, apparently there was somebody else credited as directing too, so I don't know if that was one of those situations where they lost a director and then he came in as the replacement, but I can't find anything on that.
Well, if you're only needing to cobble together a soulless cash grab, that's how you do it. Just get in some director when you couldn't get the original.
And essentially that's what happened here with this movie. Is I think the first one caught the studio and the producers off guard of how successful it was, because when you put it in terms of how successful the first Police Academy was, it's in line with a Marvel movie today. I mean, well, I should refrain that. I should
it's like Guardians of the Galaxy,
Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah. Those along those lines. That's exactly where Police Academy
actually it blew up like a Marvel, like a Spider-Man Homecoming, because I don't think people expected that one to do as well as it did. But
true. Now, Police Academy 2 came out in 1985, and I think personally, and this could be my own nostalgia here, it had probably tougher competition compared to the original one, but at the same time, the movie's
tougher competition.
Yeah.
Really? Because there were some awfully good movies in
84. Yes, there was, but I don't know. It still came out at number 11 for the year, which is pretty high, I think.
I'm going to guess there weren't a lot of return viewers that didn't help that.
Probably. Back to the Future was number 1 movie that year.
Fair enough.
Rambo First Blood Part 2, back in the day when you could go to an R movie and everybody was like, yeah. Oh, Rocky 4. Well, Stallone had a very good year in 1985.
Yes, he did.
Not Carl Weathers, though.
Probably where he made a chunk of his money.
The Color Purple was the 4th film. The 5th was Out of Africa. The 6th was Cocoon. Well, you got your Steve Guttenberg right there.
Oh, yeah.
And a bunch of old people. They're all dead now. Oh, no, Wilford Brimley's still out there.
Keep going.
Jewel of the Nile.
I like that
was the 7th movie. The 8th movie was
honestly,
Witness.
If we're going to go into 80s movies, that's one I think I want to hit sometime soon.
Which
Romancing the Stone and then Jewel of the Nile.
I kind of want to watch those too because of the fact that Sala was supposed to be Danny DeVito.
Interesting. Yeah. John Rhys Davies?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, but he was busy and John Rhys Davies got that role.
There's another throwaway movie I want to do more than that, but we'll talk about that later.
The Goonies was number 9, and then number 10 was Spies Like Us, followed by Police Academy. Looks like Chevy Chase had a good year too. Fletch was number 12.
Back when he could get a job.
And European Vacation was number 14.
Oh wow.
Wow, yeah, he had a busy year. Other notes of movies that came out in 1985. The Breakfast Club. A little overrated for my taste, but still enjoyable.
I don't think you or I are the target audience for that movie, Dave. So
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I love that movie. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
okay.
That's the movie that everyone said they're breaking all the rules for Freddy, even though no one really established too many rules yet.
Yeah, it's out. Do we have a talk about that in fandom? Fans owning the franchise more so than the people who are doing the writing?
Yeah. Weird Science. I mean,
I like that movie too.
Yeah, the Santa Claus the movie. Remember that one, Dudley Moore? Although that one didn't have.
Yes.
I mean, that was a flop by the terms of flop. But that's because they spent a lot of money on it. But yeah, there's a lot of movies that came out in 1985.
Just saying this too out there for anybody who's listening to this, lest you feel that Dave and I are the lords of media pontificating down to everyone else. Any of you have any kind of a yen to hear us talk about any of these movies with the kind of care and dedication that we have applied to the movies we've done so far, and we'll do many, many others to come, feel free to leave us a message. Anchor has a nice message system. When I post this onto YouTube, YouTube has a comment section. We will take note of what you want to hear and tailor what we do to fit your needs. So we are your podcast as well as ours. So let us know.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so. Let's leave this behind us because, quite honestly, this makes me sad. My final thoughts. This franchise. Really, if before it became a franchise, you had the first movie, which was quite good. We both liked the first movie.
Yeah, the first movie I have a stronger appreciation for than I did before. Some of that is to do with watching comedies of today or yesterday and all that, and then you go back and you watch a movie that might have been more frowned upon by certain critics or whoever back in the day, and then when you watch it and you're like, they spent some good time with these characters. And then, unfortunately, when they made some of the sequels, a lot of that good stuff went away.
And again, too, as Dave just revealed to us all, there's a number of things that went into sabotaging 2 to not be as good as the potential for this group of actors who they stayed together. They kept the core together and had some good opportunities to create something truly special with the sequel. But it just completely fell apart into stock comedy rote that didn't work nearly as well, and just weak writing. It was a loss of potential. It was ultimately a waste of my time. This is a comedy movie that made me angry, and I'm really kind of sad about that because I don't really like to have a bad thought of these characters. These are characters that I'm quite fond of for the number of times I've seen them now. And Kirkland, maybe she deserved to have some development thrown her way instead of just being a female tag. They could have done something more. But as we're going to find out when we go to the third movie, Back in Training, that sometimes having more characters can lead to their own problem. But we'll get to that next time we go back to the podcast. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.